Hello and welcome to the Chosen Generation. My name is Mudinda Mbevana. Today we have a really hot topic for you. Let me put it like this. What would you do if you realize that all these years the man you've been calling your father is not actually your real father? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Well, today we have a few guests who are going to help us unpack this issue a little bit more. We have in our midst Mrs. Nonina Dipuku, who is a nurse, but also passionate about issues that affect young people. We also have in our midst Advocate Ashley Sekel, and he will give us the legal aspect, but he also loves young people. Well, don't forget that you can have your share of this discussion by talking to us on the hashtag TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. It's time for us to get straight into the conversation.
Parents who lie about paternity of the child, that's a big problem, and it's not starting now. I know people who have died in their 80s who lied about the paternity of their children and their grandchildren and so forth. It's really a big mess, because once again people try to save face. People don't want to have a relationship with God that is open and clear and honest and genuine. People want to have a relationship that is it's very fake, it's pretentious, and the reason for that is, hey, my family can't go through that, my family can't do that, I can't have this or that in my family. So people try to keep clean, and then it becomes a problem, because how dare you have a child with such a low life? This person has never even done Sabbath school, or this person has never even prayed in church, and all of a sudden, so those kind of things, they create problems when it comes to dealing with paternity.
Oh, I think it's to protect. I think it comes from a space of back in the day. It was a thing of protection. You brought in a child, and it's very difficult to just let it out and say this and this and this happened. It was just basically protection from a lot of other things that we didn't know. I'm not sure why it's done today, but I think it stems off that generational. So it's something that just now is now traditional, and we don't know why we did it back then, and we're just following with what it is now. Yeah.
Perhaps I should start with you, and let's get a legal aspect already from the beginning. Let's hit it on the spot. Yes. What is paternity fraud? What does it entail? And so forth. Can you give us your perspective?
Paternity fraud. Well, I think the key word there, it's difficult to even say the key word, because the topic is paternity being the key word. But for purposes of establishing the existence of a crime, I'm going to concentrate on fraud.
Okay.
Fraud is a crime, it's a common law crime, it's a legislated crime. And when we talk about issues of paternity fraud, you get people out there who, and it's unfortunate, I'm going to have to put my mothers on the spots. What these mothers do is they have children, and certain men or somebody who is told that this is your child disputes that, this is my child, and requests that, look, let's go and undergo a paternity test to determine whether or not this is indeed my child. And then people do all sort of unscrupulous things behind the back, paying the lab engineers, so that they can manipulate the results. And that is the act of fraud. And so paternity fraud is a crime. It is a crime that exists in our society. We've read about numerous incidences in the newspapers. Some of us come from families where we know that, some of these issues have caused havoc within the family. But the moment when we speak about paternity fraud, we're speaking about a criminal offense, because it is a criminal offense to do that, and you can actually get yourself into some very, very hot water for going around to manipulate results so that you keep the truth out.
That's interesting. Maybe let me bring you in, Mam Nonina. Maybe, I don't know, as a midwife, you can maybe give us some insight. Maybe the mother didn't know the children were switched at the hospital, or how does this happen that suddenly ladies are saying that, oh, there's some fraud, there's a lie about who the real father of the child is?
When it comes to the paternity of the child, let's put the switching of the children aside. Yes. With women, most of the time, they prefer who the father would be.
Okay.
It's for the self-interest. Because you check at the reliable person, which, okay, this one is reliable, even though the real father I know, but I will say the father of the child is this one. Because in some instances, you will find that one child is supported by 3 fathers.
Yeah.
The other one, there'll be only one father that knows, Guti, I am not the father. But he was told, Guti, the real father denied the child or doesn't want to support the child. Though the real father is supporting the child, but the strings are no longer attached, meaning the relationship between them. Then the other one also knows that I am the father of the child.
Sure.
So it happens. So with women, they just prefer, and it's about their self-interest and what they will gain.
Okay.
Yes, then they will lie about the paternity of the child because they want to gain. They will get 3 supports from the children, from their fathers. And most of the one sign, most of those women, they want the support to come in cash form. Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the first signs to detect.
That's very interesting. Maybe staying with you, Mom. Who is disadvantaged by this whole thing when there's a lying of the paternity of the father? Who is the person who's affected by all of this when it happens?
Whole people, most of the people are affected. Family, the child, but the main affected people will be the father that does not know what this is not my child, and the child. Remember the child, as the child grows, he shoulders himself on all the people that they play a parental role on him or her. So the self-esteem, the trust, the everything is reliant on these people that he sees them as my parents.
Okay.
So just imagine the day when the carpet has to be pulled out. What will happen?
Yeah, disaster. Advocate Ashley, perhaps you can speak on this. Is there any legal, imperative for a mother to be honest about who the father is? Or can we just decide, as she's saying, all these motivations for the decisions that people make?
Look, there is no law, that says to a mother you've got a moral obligation to disclose, who the rightful father is to this child. And the Lord does not seek to regulate issues of morality, generally speaking. But of course, there are people that discover after a while, either through paternity tests, suppose maybe there's no paternity fraud, and then the DNA results come out, and they show that I'm not the father to this child. And you've suffered a lot. We've got what is known as the law of damages, where you can claim for patrimonial loss, where you can quantify that I've taken this child to school. I've bought this child clothes for I don't know how many years. I've played a father figure, spending money that can be quantified. And I feel that I am legally entitled to go and claim damages against this woman because she has cost me so much. And of course, there's legal basis for doing that. In our jurisprudence, though, we've not had many of these cases pop up. And as you would imagine, in any matter that involves a child, one always has to act in the best interest of the child. So it's not every day that you will see parties then go on and take these matters to court, etc., etc. Usually they consult with experts, they go to mediators, and then the matters are dealt with internally. So we don't really get to hear stuff in the newspapers or in the courts. I do know of one particular case where the gentleman did claim for patrimonial loss, which he quantified, and he said, I've now since found out the truth, and look at how much I spent. And he was able to finish receipts and everything. He was keeping record. And over and above that, he then says that I also need to claim non-patrimonial loss for the pain and suffering that you have caused me. He was successful in the High Court, but unfortunately the matter went on to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and it was overturned because the justices were of the view that he failed to prove that the woman was enriched by these actions.
okay.
So that is to say, he may not have been successful, but somebody else, may be successful. So when we speak about legal grounds and a legal basis, there is obviously a foundation laid where you can sue for damages in instances like those.
Well, you've heard it for yourself, viewers. You can share your views with us about this subject, and the hashtag to use is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think about this. Don't go away. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still discussing the subject of women or mothers who lie about the paternity of their children. Don't forget to share your views with us. The hashtag TCG on SID. Let us know what your story is. We really love hearing from you. Now, back to the discussion. Ashley, maybe I should bring you in here. And I want us to really unpack a bit more. Who are the victims legally when these fraudulent cases are discussed? Who are the people who are really affected by this lie that has been purported by the mothers?
Yeah. Well, over and above what's already been shared, being that the child is affected, the biological father is affected, and the gentleman who's now been supporting this child has been affected, as Umama already said. Maybe if we have a much broader look at this, suppose you've now gone for this paternity test. You see that you are now introducing other third parties. So now the parties decide that let's go and do this paternity test. And then this woman, to cover up the initial lie, must now engage in further conduct by bribing somebody else. So you see that official, at whatever lab that is now drawn into this, it gets worse though. You are then caught out on that paternity test, and then it becomes a criminal matter for paternity fraud. Right? You're going to get prosecuted for that. And this is where we are now involved as the community. Some people may not realize it, even though we might not be directly involved. But as a community at large, we are now indirectly involved, because this matter must now go to court. There's a prosecutor, there's a judge or a magistrate that now needs to preside over this matter. Who pays those people? It's taxpayers that are paying those people. We have so many other issues, that our police officials could be investigating, proper things to make our society a better place. So this thing has an impact, within the household and within the community or the country, at a grander scale. And that's how hectic and far-reaching paternity fraud gets.
That's very interesting. Maybe Manu, Nina, I can bring another element also. Do you think that maybe women who will then cheat, I know you've described in the first segment about how this can happen, but you find that women who cheat, perhaps they cheat on someone and then they want to hide the paternity. Now, for example, you might be married and then you cheat, and then the paternity of the child cannot be disclosed because now you are disclosing that you have been committing adultery. Do you think that could be one of the cases that we are seeing out there in public?
Yeah. Actually, it's one of them, because when you get pregnant outside of a marriage, remember the child is not of the father. Now, how are you going to explain, this is not your child? You are simply saying, I was cheating and these are the results of what I was doing. So the bottom line will have to be, for me, to escape from all of this, I have to lie. I have to lie. So like with this one, most of the cases are from that one, because I have to lie in order to save my marriage. I have to say, this child is yours. And remember, as the husband, you will believe me, because I've been staying with you. Nobody, and with us, we have this thing of thinking nobody will go outside and get pregnant while the father inside is able to do children.
So, Manje, if you are dark and the child is a yellow bone,
Don't worry with us women. Don't worry. This child looks like the granny of the great-grandfather.
man.
I will show you the photo, and I will make it a point that I get the aunt that is very dark. You see, look at the ear, look at the finger.
Hey.
And I will go.
Wow.
I will go with it.
Hey, I know. This is hectic.
That's rough.
It's rough, eh? Advocate Seko, what about the aspect of the real fathers? Maybe let's take this scenario. I'm the real father. I've been denied that privilege of having access to my child all these years because of the lie and the hiding of the adultery. What do you think maybe is the impact on the real father?
You can only imagine. I mean, the psyche. Look, I'm not a father, but I can think if I were to one day have a child and that child is kept away from me and only realize later on. Because you know that father and child bond, even though I'm not a psychologist, I think I'm human enough to understand that there is that bond that is of paramount importance. And if you do separate it, these are years that you can never catch up on, hey? I mean, suppose you find this child and you only learn by the time maybe they're a youth, or maybe they are now in high school or in the university. You'll never get the opportunity to walk them into the park, push them on a swing, you know? You might even see yourself as a failure. I mean, think about it. I suppose that the psychological impact, it might even lead one to suicide, or, you know, it leads people into resorting to drinking and all of these other things. This is how hectic this thing can be, because you keep my child away from me, and I must now meet this child after numerous years and explain my absence. At the same time, try and also protect the child from this crime that was, you know, perpetrated by the mother. It's difficult.
Hi, I'm worried about these men who don't know. Why can't they see? TCG on SID, why aren't men seeing? Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We're still talking about parents who lie about the paternity of their children. You can also have your views with us. The hashtag to use is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Perhaps you can even share your story with us. Back to the conversation, Brother Ashley. Maybe you can illuminate for us the Children's Act. I believe it's Section 36. What does it talk about, and what are the issues there?
Well, it's a simple section. It talks about presumptions, rebuttable presumptions. So presumption as a point of departure. If you are pregnant and then a child is born out of that pregnancy, there is a rebuttable presumption that the father to that child is the last person you slept with.
Okay.
It's like you need to do some calculations, go back 9 months and say, okay, that week, the last person I slept with was this one. And then the law immediately, automatically then recognizes that person as the father to this child. But it's rebuttable in the sense that the onus now stands on you. So let me give you a practical example. So this young lady, who most often they are yellow in color, you know, this yellow bone that you've fallen in love with is suddenly pregnant.
Yeah.
And you trace back that, hey, yeah, 9 months ago, things happened, between you and this yellow bone. But what you don't know, though, is that in that same week that things happened with you, there were probably 2 or 3 other guys that also had things happening. But you happened to be the last of those 3. So you came in as guy number 4. So automatically then the law says, oh, when you were the last one to get in, this child is yours. And then the onus is now on you to then stand up and say, nope, I've got evidence.
Oh, I can defend.
That's the word rebuttable. So that's why you can rebut. You say, no, but I've got evidence. But, then the law places that burden on you.
Oh, okay.
So then the law says automatically, we're recognizing you as the father. We're going to place the duty on you to show otherwise. So that's what happens if a child is born out of wedlock. And there's also a rebuttable presumption, by the way, in marriages. Because when we speak about paternity issues, they affect the married in as much as they affect the unmarried as well. And the rebuttable presumption in a marriage is that when a child is born in a marriage, you, as the man that is married to this woman, you are the father. So even if you know, and the community knows that she was promiscuous and, she goes around, she was cheating on you, that's for you to now come and say, before the law to say, no, this is not my child. Then you can go through the paternity test, etc., etc. But until that happens, the duty to maintain and care for the child lies on you.
What is your view on this issue?
Yeah, actually, it's true. I wanted to come in with an example. We had a case, I think it was 2012, in KZN. As you are saying, the last person who slept with, the lady thought the person she last slept with was the father. But now, when the children came out, because they were twins, the other one looked like the other one she slept with earlier on in the week.
Hey, man.
And then they had to do paternity test for both children. They are twins. Ne? Only to find that she was impregnated by 2 people within 1 week.
Yeah?
Sure.
She got twins. The other twin is for the other father. The other twin is for the other father. So, guys, we are in trouble. Yeah.
This one is above my pay grade. No. Actually, legally, can both the biological father and the father have any legal rights to the child? Are they protected in any way? How do you strike that balance legally?
It all boils down to the child. It's never going to be about the biological father. It's never just going to be limited to the, what do we call it? Do we call it the unbiological father?
The parent.
The parent, yeah.
Yes,
Because
he parented this child.
Because, he comes in, and when you consider Section 7 then, and this is where Section 7 kicks in of the Children's Act, which essentially deals about the best interest of the child.
Okay.
So now the court must come in there and assess the best interest of the child. We've got matters, that you'll hear of where even biological parents are not allowed access to their children.
Oh, wow.
And access is given to grandmothers or neighbors and so forth because it is in the best interest of the child. People have been raised by neighbors. They've been raised by their grandparents. And then suddenly the mother rocks up and says, no, I want my child. And then the court says, well, even though it's your child, it would not be in the best interest of this child to remove them from the place of the grandmother. So now think about it this way. You've now raised this child whom you've now realized is not your child. And remember that your fight with the mother has nothing to do with the child. And you not wanting to involve it. Maybe you even have a bond with this child and you want to continue supporting and having a role to play in this child's life. You can actually go and get a court order that still allows you, notwithstanding the fact that you're not the biological father, it will still grant you access to their child because it is in the best interest of their child to remain in your presence with your support, which has now been established over time.
Mam Nonina, maybe I should bring you on the other aspect, maybe so that we can focus a little bit on the child. Do you think there are any challenges? Let's say you've been raised by someone whom you thought was your father, then your biological father is finally recognized. Do you think there's a challenge for the child to now reorientate? Now I must start calling someone else father when I've been calling this one father.
It's a big challenge. Because remember, as you are saying, it's reorientation now. Of the number one, the trust is totally dented. The self-esteem, you name them, almost the whole being of that child is just broken because the child attached to himself with the person that he thought was his parent for the past 20 years or 30 years. Now he has to learn today that this is not my father. I remember there was an episode with that and the father to show how important it is to have a bond and to break a bond. The father, the real father, came into the child's life after 32 years and the girl said, yes, I acknowledge, I know, I've heard you are my father. Thank you for coming back. But I will rather remain with the father that raised me. Because when she looked at the things and all the things that had to change, she could see Guti, most of the thing will change and it will affect her psychologically or otherwise. So for her health, mental health status and whatever, it's best to remain with the father that raised me, and then we will have contact with the biological father. It's fine. But especially for the mental state, I think it's the best thing.
No, that's look, we've run out of time. So I must thank you. Thank you so much for coming through and helping us discuss this subject. Really appreciate it. And to your viewers, we'd like to thank you so much for allowing us into your space, and we hope that you'll join us again in the following programs. And perhaps a final word, dishonesty is not the right thing for us to do, especially when there are children involved. In fact, our children should not suffer for the mistakes that we have made. Let us remember that we are accountable to Jesus, the one who saves, who sanctifies, and satisfies. You can continue to share your views with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Perhaps you can even share your story. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It is the SID Media on YouTube. Please subscribe to that channel. Thank you so much for being here with us from the team and us. Goodbye and see you next week.